At Eastbrook High in Athens, Georgia, a group of school bullies targeted a black girl, knocking her down, but 10 minutes later, a white girl delivered a lesson they'd never forget. It was a late March morning when Lila Thompson arrived at school earlier than most. She walked along the uneven sidewalk, passing the flagpole where the American flag drooped in the still air. Her faded denim backpack was clutched close to her chest, her plain sneakers scuffing the ground, her hair tied back in a simple ponytail. No makeup, no pretense. Lila didn't mind fading into the background. Most days, she chose it. Her mother, a nurse at St. Mary's Medical Center, had always cautioned her to steer clear of trouble, to keep her head down, survive high school, and move forward. Lila took those words to heart, especially after the car accident that left her older brother, Ethan, in a wheelchair. Since then, her life revolved around caregiving, helping Ethan with assignments, driving him to physical therapy, and learning to spot cruelty disguised as kindness. That Monday, as she approached the school's entrance, she noticed a group of kids by the front steps. 3 boys in football jackets, their sneakers too pristine, their voices too brash. Everyone knew them. Nate Harper, Bryce Mitchell, and Tyson Blake, sons of influential men, business owners, lawyers, one the sheriff's nephew. They strutted like they owned the school, and often, it seemed they did. In front of them stood a small black girl with tight curls gathered in a puff, her hands gripping her backpack straps. Lila recognized her from algebra class, Jasmine Carter, a recent transfer from Atlanta. Though Jasmine was quiet, her subtle confidence rubbed some people the wrong way. "Where's your hall pass, Beyoncé?" Nate taunted, his voice echoing across the courtyard, pulling laughs from students watching through the hallway windows. Jasmine didn't respond. She tried to step past them. That was her error. Bryce blocked her path, and Tyson circled behind. Lila couldn't make out their words anymore, but she saw Jasmine's body stiffen, her fingers clenching, and Nate's sneering face as he leaned closer. Then it happened. Bryce pushed Jasmine hard. She stumbled sideways, her backpack sliding off, books spilling onto the concrete. Her knees grazed the pavement. Nate laughed, Tyson whistled like it was a game, and Jasmine, wincing, silently gathered her things. No one intervened, not the students inside, not the teachers nearby, not even the security guard sipping coffee in his SUV. Lila's heart raced, but her feet stayed rooted. She gripped her backpack, jaw tight, her mother's words ringing. "Keep your head down, baby. Just get through." But then Jasmine glanced up, just for a moment, and their eyes locked. Not a plea, not embarrassment, but a quiet challenge. "Will you really stand by and do nothing?" Lila's stomach twisted. 10 minutes later, the lunch bell rang, and students flooded the courtyard in waves. The bullies had vanished into the cafeteria. Lila didn't follow. She returned to the front steps, where Jasmine sat alone under the flagpole, wiping her knee with a napkin, blood staining her sock. "You okay?" Lila asked. Jasmine looked up, startled. "Yeah, just scraped." "Can I sit?" Jasmine nodded. They sat in silence for a moment before Lila asked, "You know how to throw a punch?" Jasmine shot her a sideways glance. "What? You gonna teach me?" Lila didn't reply. She stood, pulled a hair tie from her wrist, and tightened her ponytail. Then she scanned the field and spotted Nate, Bryce, and Tyson laughing by the vending machines behind the gym. Lila handed her backpack to Jasmine. "Hold this." Jasmine blinked. "Wait, what are you?" But Lila was already moving, each step heavier, her chest burning with something she couldn't name. She wasn't sure what she'd say, only that if she stayed silent, that silence would haunt her forever. The boys noticed her and grinned, expecting a show. Well, Tyson said. "Look who finally grew a spine." Lila stopped a few feet away, steady, her voice calm. You think what you did earlier was funny? Nate smirked. It was a joke. She tripped. Really? Because I saw you shove her. Bryce crossed his arms. And what are you going to do about it? Lila met their eyes. You've already done enough. The school has cameras by the steps. You're all on tape. It was a gamble. She wasn't certain, but their faces shifted. Tyson laughed, but it was shaky. You're bluffing. Test me, Lila said. But next time you touch her, I won't need cameras. Nate stepped closer. What? You a hero now. Lila didn't back down. I think you're scared of people who aren't. Nate raised a hand, as if to shove her, but a voice cut through. Don't. It was Coach Harlan, the track coach, crossing the lot with a duffel bag, having seen enough. The boys froze. Harlan didn't lecture. He assigned laps. You touch her, you're done, he said flatly. And not just off the team. Nate lowered his hand, glared at Lila, and walked off. Bryce followed. Tyson spat on the ground, but stayed silent. Lila exhaled slowly. When she turned, Jasmine was there, holding her backpack, eyes wide. Why'd you do that? Lila gave a weary smile. Because someone had to. That afternoon, Lila was called to the principal's office. Not for trouble, but because Jasmine had reported the incident. Principal Ellis, a gray-haired woman with steel-rimmed glasses, asked if Jasmine's account was accurate. Lila nodded. Every word. Ellis leaned back, sighing. We've had problems with those boys before. This time, we'll handle it. Lila nodded again. Before she left, Ellis added, You did something brave, but it's not your job to fix what's broken here. Lila paused at the door. Maybe not, but I won't help break it. That night at dinner, Lila was quiet. She helped Ethan with his math, washed dishes, and retreated to her room early. Instead of homework, she opened her notebook and wrote a sentence that felt more honest than any essay. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Not today. The next few days felt different. Students looked at Lila not with ridicule, but with something like respect, or at least wariness. Some nodded quietly in the halls. Others whispered her name when they thought she wasn't listening. Jasmine started walking with her between classes, not saying much, just keeping step, like it was natural. They didn't discuss the vending machine confrontation. They didn't need to. Their silence wasn't heavy, it was shared. One afternoon, Jasmine appeared at Lila's locker with a small box wrapped in brown paper, a gift from her mother as thanks. Inside was a woven bracelet in black, red, and gold. Lila slipped it on without a word. It fit perfectly. That week, the bullies kept their distance. Nate still strutted in the halls, but he didn't speak. Coach Harlan watched him closely in gym, his whistle always ready. But tension doesn't vanish just because it's ignored. It lingers like a storm on the horizon. On Thursday, Lila saw the word rat scratched into Jasmine's locker, deep enough to mark, shallow enough to feign innocence. Jasmine saw it, pulled a cartoon cat sticker from her binder, and covered it without a word. Lila admired that quiet defiance, but her fists clenched. That night, Lila couldn't focus on her English essay. She stared at a blank screen until Ethan wheeled in with a mug of cocoa, setting it beside her without comment. You're not angry, he said softly. You're hurt. It's different, isn't it? Lila blinked at him. He was only 2 years older, but he saw her clearly. I keep trying to be better, she muttered, and the world keeps pushing back. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe that's the point. Keep going. She didn't respond, but she finished the essay that night. It wasn't perfect, but it was true. The next day at lunch, Lila and Jasmine sat under an oak tree in a quiet corner of the field. They talked about music, Jasmine missing her Atlanta gospel choir, Lila sneaking into her neighbor's garage to play an old piano. You ever sing? Jasmine asked. Lila shook her head. Only alone. Jasmine smiled. Then it's real. Lila carried that thought all day. Jasmine's presence made her feel secure without needing to prove herself. But high school safety is fleeting. That afternoon, a video spread, old footage of the incident by the gym, filmed by someone who'd stayed silent until now. It showed Lila confronting Nate, just as it happened, but the captions twisted it. Girl thinks she's a hero, stirs drama for clout. The comments were vicious. Some laughed, others shared it. A few added mocking music. By sixth period, Lila's phone buzzed constantly. She turned it off. Jasmine found her by the vending machines after school, holding out Twizzlers. Peace offering? Lila took one. It's fine, she mumbled. Let them talk. Jasmine tilted her head. Is it really fine? Lila looked away. No, but I'm used to it. That night, Lila showed Ethan the video. He watched silently, then asked, "What's your next move?" Lila shrugged. Nothing. Fighting back just feeds them. Ethan leaned forward. Then let them start the fire, or build something from it. Lila sat with that long after he left. The next morning, she walked into school with her head up, ignoring the whispers. She noticed something new. A few students, strangers, gave her subtle nods. One girl slipped a note into her hand in the hallway. Thank you for Jasmine. For all of us. Lila didn't know who wrote it, but she tucked it into her pocket. By Friday, tensions flared again. After PE, Lila saw Jasmine cornered near the maintenance shed by Sadie Vaughn, a cheerleader with sharp nails and sharper words. You think you run this place now, just because some wannabe hero stepped up? Sadie hissed. Jasmine's fists were tight, but still, her eyes flicking to Lila for a split second. That was enough. Lila stepped forward, deliberate. Back off. Sadie turned, smirking. Oh, look, it talks. Lila didn't flinch. You want to push someone? Try me. Sadie scoffed. Trust me. I'd love to, but you're not worth a suspension. She walked off, brushing Lila's shoulder with mock sweetness. Careful, new girl. Fame fades fast. Lila watched her leave, then turned to Jasmine. You okay? Jasmine nodded, voice breaking. Yeah. I didn't want you to step in. Lila paused. Why? Jasmine's eyes glistened, but held firm. I wanted to handle it like you did for me. Lila exhaled softly. You did handle it. You stood your ground. Jasmine looked away. But I still needed you. Lila smiled faintly. That's not weakness. That's knowing you're worth backup. That evening, Coach Harlan texted Lila, asking if she'd join a student-led mentorship program, not as a participant, but as a guide. She stared at the message before replying yes, not because she felt like a leader, but because someone might need what Jasmine gave her: quiet strength, steady presence, the sense that someone saw them in a harsh world. That weekend, Lila wrote in her notebook, not for school, but for herself. She described feeling out of place, mocked for standing tall, told silence was safer. Then she wrote the truth. Silence is survival, but speaking is freedom, starting not when the crowd hears, but when one person stands beside you. Monday, the school's vibe shifted. The mocking video lost steam, drowned by a new post from a yearbook club student. A raw clip of Jasmine's fall, Lila's stand, unedited, no music, just truth. Comments flipped. Some who'd laughed fell silent. Teachers nodded as Lila passed. A counselor invited her to speak at a peer assembly on student conduct. Lila hesitated. She hadn't fought for attention, only for what was right. Yet somehow, she'd become a symbol. That week, Lila and Jasmine ate lunch in the library by the tall windows, sunlight casting soft patterns on the carpet. They spoke of the future, Jasmine's dream of a poetry club, Lila joking about teaching self-defense if the school allowed it. They were a quiet constant, not loud, but steady. One afternoon, a freshman girl approached, her voice shaky, bruises hidden under concealer. Can I sit with you? Lila scooted over. and Jasmine shared half her sandwich without comment. That moment spoke louder than any speech. But peace at Eastbrook was fragile. Wednesday after sixth period, Lila heard panic shouts near the East Wing stairwell. She ran toward the sound, finding a crowd circling a boy on the floor, nose bleeding, eyes wide. Tyson Blake stood over him, fists clenched, breathing hard. Someone said Tyson snapped. Another claimed the boy insulted Tyson's sister. But Lila saw fear in Tyson's eyes, not anger. Still, the damage was done. Administrators arrived, and Tyson was let out in handcuffs, protesting. Students recorded, whispered, but no one intervened. That night, Jasmine called Lila, voice unsteady. They're saying it was self-defense, that the other kid threw something first. Lila sighed. But no one filmed that, right? Just the punch. Same story, different day. She muttered. People see what fits their narrative. By Friday, Eastbrook felt like a powder keg. Rumors swirled about Tyson, the other boy, and possible stricter rules from the school board. Students picked sides. Some called Tyson a thug. Others said he was pushed too far. Lila stayed low until Principal Ellis pulled her aside after third period. I know you declined the assembly, Ellis said softly, but we need a voice students trust, someone who knows what it's like to be seen, to be misjudged. Lila stared out the office window at the courtyard. I'm not a leader, she said finally. Ellis leaned forward. That's why they'll listen. You're just you. That night, Lila opened her notebook, thinking of Jasmine's fall, her own fear facing the bullies, Ethan's quiet support. She wrote, not a speech, but a story, mine, imperfect, honest. The next day, in the auditorium, her heart pounded as she faced the crowd, students slouched, teachers watching, some with clipboards, as if grading bravery. The microphone squeaked. Someone coughed. Then silence. I'm not here to be a role model, Lila began. I'm here because I saw someone get pushed down for no reason, and I almost walked away. Something in me said if I did, I'd keep walking forever. So I turned back. I stood up, not to be brave, but because someone needed to feel seen. What we allow shapes who we are. If we let silence bury what's wrong, we're part of it. I'm not better than you. I've been scared, wanted to vanish, but I'm here. Sometimes, that's enough, to show up for someone else. She stepped down. The applause came slowly, then steadily, not loud, but real. After, Jasmine waited by Lila's locker, smiling softly. Told you your voice mattered. Lila smiled back. I didn't know until someone heard it. The next week, change crept in slowly. The mentorship program started quietly, a few freshmen joined, and Jasmine led a poetry session in the library. Lila arrived early to help set up. The girl with bruises kept coming. Others followed, not because Lila guaranteed safety, but because she showed strength. One Friday evening, Lila sat with Ethan on the porch, cicadas humming. Scared up there? He asked. She nodded. Still am. He laughed. Good. Means you're doing it right. Lila gazed at the stars through the branches. I thought power was hitting hardest. Now I think it's knowing when not to. Ethan raised his cocoa. To knowing. Lila clinked her glass. To showing up. Somewhere nearby, another girl stood tall in a crowded hallway, perhaps silent too long, perhaps moved by something she couldn't ignore, perhaps hearing Lila's whispered words. Not today. Because courage, once witnessed, spreads, and in a harsh world, one Lila Thompson can shift what silence hides.